Welcome to the High Level Human Podcast, a production of the James Mcgee Show. With your host, James Mcgee. He pulls no punches, he's in your face, and he keeps it real. Join him for candid discussions about life, leadership, and living the life of a high-level human.
Welcome back to the James Mcgee Show. I am your host. I am James Mcgee. So on this Monday, instead of Man's Man Monday, I decided to address something that has happened Friday night, a tragic incident that happened in Utica, New York, Utica. I hope I'm spelling it correctly. But a police officer shot and killed a 13-year-old. Of course, there is a big uprising, a lot of questions, but I did a lot of research and I want to talk about it. I'm concerned. I'm very concerned for these officers because it appears right now that they've already been tried and convicted. They have been tried and convicted in the court of political preservation by some politicians and the court of public opinion. Which is terrible. These officers, like we have said before several times on this show, officers are perceived to be treated differently, and they are. And in this case, shows it already. They have been treated different than anyone else. I have never known someone to get in a shooting, and before they are charged, their names are released to the public. The three officers, I am furious. Shame on you, chief of police. Shame on you, mayor. Shame on any of you that made this decision to release these officers' names. Their names should not have been released unless they are charged. And from what I can tell so far, they should not be charged with a crime. It's tragic. A 13-year-old is dead. It's tragic. But we have to look completely at the facts. These officers have not been charged, and now their names, they're unsafe. Their families are not safe. I sure hope before they release these names that the chief of police and the mayor thought of this and secured these officers. They're on administrative leave, secured these officers' families and them, and put them somewhere safe. That's a tragic. Utica, New York is 60,000 people. That's not a huge city. They are not safe. Let's look at the facts. So this is about 10:15 p.m. This happens. We'll look at the facts and then I'll give some of my opinions on it. So at 10:15 p.m., officers had been patrolling a certain area where there had been armed robberies. Recent, I believe the night before was the most recent, around the same time. Two males are walking down the street that fit the description of the persons who had committed the armed robberies. They stopped the two males, which is a lawful stop, completely lawful stop right there. They also had some violations. They were impeding the flow of traffic, but just that was reasonable suspicion for them to make that stop. That's a lawful stop. They gave them lawful orders. They had a right, because of the circumstance, to pat them down for weapons. So also went to pat down a 13-year-old. He didn't know he's 13 at the time. Went to pat down this person he had stopped, and the subject took off running. He gave chase, very short distance. It wasn't a block. Tackled him. You hear him on the body cam saying that he had a gun. The reports that I read was that he pointed the gun at the officer. Officer fired one shot, and the subject later died at the hospital. So the gun turned out to be a pellet gun. Now, the irresponsible reporting of the mainstream media, New York Post, I've read from CNN. Of course, they're saying it was one said, officer saw what he thought was a gun. No, it was a gun. It was a pellet gun, but it was a gun. Not only was it a pellet gun, it was a pellet gun that was made to look like a Glock 17 semi-automatic handgun. It wasn't something they thought was a handgun. What was being pointed at them was a handgun. It is tragic that a 13-year-old died, but it is not the officer's responsibility to get shot first and with a pellet gun and then realize it's a pellet gun. He does not have to get shot first to decide what kind of gun that is. That's irresponsible. That's just absurd for anyone to say that. Again, it is tragic that a 13-year-old is dead, but there's got to be some questions here. Why was he possessing this weapon? Was he the one that had been robbing people at gunpoint? Was this the weapon that was being used? We don't know that yet. His family is obviously very upset. I can only imagine. I have kids. The question also has to be, is 10, 15 at night, he's 13 years old. Why is he wandering the streets? Unsupervised. Can't have it both ways. Can't be, well, he's a child, but then, well, he has a right to wander the streets at 10, 15 at night. Can't be both ways. I don't know what their curfew laws are. I don't know what the laws are up there. But I know where I live, he would be out past curfew. We have got to stop immediately allowing the mainstream media to convict the mayor in this town. The first interview that he does, he makes a statement that this is happening way too much in this city. Now, I did some research. I don't see a lot of shootings by the police in this city. That was irresponsible. Now, since then, he has walked it back. In his last interview, he walked that statement back and started defending the police. My guess is that he got a little more educated, got a little more of the facts, and now he understands a little better. But you make irresponsible statements like that, all you're doing is setting it up. It's teeing it up in a disservice to the entire city and to every one of these police officers. And again, to release the names of these officers is completely disgusting. It is sickening. There's a lot of questions that have to be answered. This gun, from what is being reported by the biased media, so they're even reporting that this gun was being pointed at the officers. But they're saying, well, it's a replica gun. What does that matter? It was a gun. In these officers' mind, it was a gun. And it's still a handgun. It shoots pellets, but it is still a gun. Why did this 13-year-old possess this weapon? And why did he run from the officers? Then again, what I always say, these incidents happen, always happen. The beginning of these incidents are always the same. A person is disobeying lawful orders by a police officer. So this 13-year-old disobeyed lawful orders and then pulled a gun and pointed a gun at police officers. Still tragic. And I'm not going to start criticizing the families. They're going through enough. But I'm going to say one thing. Where were y'all at? It's 10:15 at night. And why was it he taught to obey police officers, to obey the orders of police officers? I'm going to keep monitoring this. Probably we'll talk about it throughout the week. Tomorrow night we'll have Joe and Tom, Two Finger Tuesday. I'm sure we'll talk about that again. I'm gonna stay on top of this, but we have got to have some of the most influential media personalities that we have out there. Tucker Carlson, you got to get involved. Megyn Kelly, you got to get involved. Dan Bongino, you've got to get involved and monitor this. Cannot let another incident like Minneapolis happen and police officers get no due process because of political pressure. We've got to, if they're wrong, they're wrong. If they're wrong, I will condemn them. But it very much looks like right now they are right. They should be presumed innocent like everybody else. They should be treated like everybody else and presumed innocent and treated like that. And again, releasing their names is disgusting. It's disgusting. Whoever made that decision, shame on you. And I sure hope that there's no blood on your hands over it. But that's disgusting. So until tomorrow night, Mcgee is out.